Welcome, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. In last week's video tutorial, I shared with you how to work with a panel and design a quilt around it. In this week's tutorial, I'm going to take that panel quilt from last week and I'm going to embellish it by adding and positioning applique images on my quilt. Okay, I'm going to get started by selecting Open an Existing Project from the home screen. And I'm going to select Picture This and select OK. So during the last session, I'm going to go to the Quilts tab, but during the last session, I shared with you how to draft this particular quilt using EQ. Now, in looking at this, I liked it, but I thought I could do better. And I thought about adding some applique elements to enhance the panel. So I'm going to share with you how to do that. So I'm going to start by going back to the home screen and I'm going to do a search for block patterns. And that's going to take me to the block library. And I'm going to select the plus next to the 05 Contemporary Applique. And I'm going to find the collection that's called Fish and Sea Critters. And I'm going to just select a few of these blocks. So I'm going to start with the turtle, and I can select Add to Sketchbook. And I'm going to select a couple of the fish and the starfish. And I'm using the Control key or the Command key on my keyboard when I do those selections, and that will select multiple items, and I'm going to select Add to Sketchbook. And so then I'm going to close the block library. Now, in order to use this in my quilt, I need to alter the block, and I need to turn it into a motif. So let's get started with the turtle. And so I'm going to select that and select Edit. And notice that this is a combined polydraw and applique block. So I'm going to go to the Applique tab and I'm going to use the Pick tool and I'm going to drag a box over the turtle. And then using the menu at the top of the screen, I'm going to select Edit, Copy. And I'm going to do a new block motif. And the motif means it will not have a background. Now I'm going to make sure that the Pick tool is turned on and I'm going to select Edit, Paste. And then I'm going to do Center in Block. Now I can go to the Color tab and I can color this. And I can add that to the project sketchbook. Now I'm going to repeat this process for the two fish blocks and the starfish block. But I'm going to do one small variation on the starfish block. Now on the starfish block, I realized it was a little bit more complex than what I needed. So after clicking on the Applique tab, I chose, rather than to use the Pick tool and pick up everything, I decided to just click on the larger image and select Edit, Copy, and then when I do my new block Applique Motif, again on the Pick tool, I'm going to do an Edit, Paste, and it's just bringing the shape over. And so I can do a Center in Block, and I can color that as well and add it to the project sketchbook. Now I'm going to go back to the quilt work table and I'm going to select Block Tools, Set Block. But rather than working with the Blocks tab, I'm going to go to the Motifs tab. And the Motifs tab is going to have all of those images that we just moved there and colored. So I'm going to take each of these motifs and drag them onto layer 2. So make sure that you select layer 2 and then you can pick up the motif and drag it on the workspace. And I'm not worrying about positioning at this point. I want to just get them all on. Now what I decided when I looked at these is they look a little bit small in relation to the diagram. So we're going to start by doing some resizing. So if I use the adjust tool, I can see that these basically all came in at 6 inches. So I thought, what if we went and changed it to 9 inches? And I'm going to make sure preserve aspect ratio is on, and so that's going to make sure that I resize them proportionately. So once I've selected that, I can select this first image, and with the Shift key on my keyboard, I can select the other 3 images. Now notice that I selected the resized one first. And that's going to allow me to resize all the others based on the first one. So I'm going to select now in the adjust tool, same width and height. And so that's going to change the size of all of these to be 9 inches. Now I am going to go ahead and position these and copy and paste them. So let's start with the sunfish. I'm going to move that over, and I decided I even want this one a little bit smaller. So let me go ahead and make this one 7.5 inches instead. And I can copy and do 2 pastes, and so now I have 3 that are the same size. I can put those into position, and I can use the Control key and click on the center of a patch. Now let me zoom in a bit, because that is going to allow me to basically have this dotted box around that. And if I hover over a corner, notice that it turns it into a partial circle with an arrow at the end. That is going to allow me to adjust the rotation of the block by dragging that circle. And so I can do that with any of these blocks. So let me now zoom out, and I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of these shapes. And once I have everything rotated and positioned, I can go to the fabric tools and make any modifications that I want. And I can add this to the project sketchbook. Thanks so much for watching. For additional EQ tips and techniques, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com.